But in some cases, it does. Some states do have a majority rule in their elections. In these states, if no candidate gets, hi, I'm Craig, and this is Crash Course Government and Politics. And today I'm going to talk about an aspect of American politics that is probably most familiar to you, at least if you're an American and you sometimes watch TV or look at the internet or read a newspaper or breathe air. I'm talking about elections, which get a lot of attention here in the US and on Crash Course, possibly because they present a relatively straightforward narrative that is easy for the media to cover. But we're not going to focus on media coverage today. No, instead we're going to look at why we have elections in the first place and the institutions and procedures that structure the way elections work in America. We might even compare them to elections in other places, but I can't make any promises. Before we get into the But in some cases, Hi, I'm Craig, and this is Crash Course Government and Politics, and today I'm going to talk about an aspect of American politics that is probably most familiar to you, at least if you're an American and you sometimes watch TV or look at the internet or read a newspaper or breathe air. I'm talking about elections, which get a lot of attention here in the US and on Crash Course, possibly because they present a relatively straightforward narrative that is easy for the media to cover. But we're not going to focus on media coverage today. No, instead we're going to look at why we have elections in the first place and the institutions and procedures that structure the way elections work in America. We might even compare them to elections in other places, but I can't make any promises. Before we get into the nitty-gritty of how elections work in the US, it might be a good time to ask a question that rarely gets asked. Why do we have elections in the first place? The simple answer is complexity. America is too big and complex to hold public referendums on individual issues, although some states like California try to do it. So instead, we choose representatives. In other words, we vote for people, not policies. Elections are as good a system for holding these representatives accountable as any. Well, at least they're better than violence or public shaming. Political scientists and economists have a more complicated way of describing this in terms of adverse selection. Because why would we want a simple answer when we have political scientists and economists around? Well, they got to do something. Adverse selection is a problem that can arise when we make a choice, but do not necessarily have all the information we need to make that choice. Kind of like when you buy a used car. Elections help to solve this problem because they are ideally competitive. The competition creates incentives for candidates to provide information about themselves and to make most of that information accurate, since their opponent will call them out for any statements that are less than truthful. At least that's what we hope will happen. Elections also supposedly make candidates more accountable, since they provide voters a chance to get rid of bad actors. Of course, this only works when elections are competitive, and as we'll see in a later episode, many elections in the US really aren't. You might think that since elections are so important to our politics that they would be featured prominently in the Constitution. But yeah, no. The Constitution does set up a few basic guidelines that structure American elections, but most of the important rules that define the way elections are carried out come out of state laws, legal decisions, and local administrative practices. So what does the Constitution say about elections? Not a lot, as it turns out, except when it comes to choosing the president. The president just gets everything. President's so important. The Constitution does lay out the qualifications for running for federal office, which we already went over in our episodes on Congress and the President, and it describes the numbers of representatives and senators. But mostly, the Constitution leaves elections up to the states. Article 1, Section 4 says, "The times, places, and manner of holding elections for senators and representatives shall be prescribed in each state by the legislature thereof. But the Congress may at any time, by law, make or alter such regulations, except as to the places of choosing senators." And the Constitution was later changed to allow for direct election of senators with the 17th Amendment, so that last clause doesn't matter so much anymore. The Constitution does say more about the way the president is chosen indirectly through the Electoral College, but the framers messed that up so badly that they had to amend the Constitution after the election of 1800. The 12th Amendment, which basically means that the president and vice president come from the same political party, although it doesn't actually say that, fixed the electoral process, so now it's flawless. But it's still indirect, and the qualifications for the electors who choose the president are still left up to the states. Some constitutional amendments also help to structure American elections. The 24th Amendment outlawed poll taxes, which made it easier for poor people to vote. And the 26th Amendment lowered the voting age from 21 to 18. In general, when Congress addresses voting issues, it's to try to expand the pool of voters. Although the Constitution doesn't specify when elections happen, it does give Congress the power to do so, and it requires that the day on which the electors choose the president has to be one single day. This is in Article 2. The Congress may determine the time of choosing the electors and the day on which they shall give their votes, which day shall be the same throughout the United States. Congressional laws also help structure elections by making them more fair. The Voting Rights Act of 1965 set up a number of systems to increase voter participation by minority groups, especially African Americans. And Congress also set up the Federal Election Commission, which has some say over elections. I'll tell you who should never be able to vote: Eagles.
Hi, everyone. Okay, so here we are back to pandemic practice. This is the second time we've had class online, I think, since I did that once before when I went to that conference in Pittsburgh a month ago. So let me go back to to our class, and so let me also, so I don't forget, let's go to the cyber campus and make sure that you can see everything that I'm doing, because I want you to see everything that I'm doing. And so go to the Introduction to American Politics here and go to attendance. And so we're in week 13 still. And so week 13, smart attendance, and your smart attendance number is 460. So make sure you can see that, the 460 smart attendance number. There you can see 460 is your smart attendance number. And so like I typically do when I do this, I go then also to the chat box and type in 460 here so that you all see the attendance number, and so you can enter that in. Okay, well, of course, since we're also always trying to keep everybody excited about the material that we're covering in the class, because we have a campaign, an election going on in the United States, and we're also attempting to cover the basics of the American political system, the American Constitution, including how we go about selecting professional candidates for office, often unlike Donald Trump, but more typically from people that build their careers in politics and ambitiously rise from position to position. And of course, the media's main focus on competition, competition with Donald Trump focuses upon political figures, particularly Ron DeSantis, the Governor Ron DeSantis of Florida, which is the third biggest state in the United States, having not too long ago passed New York State as the third largest in population, behind, I believe, California and Texas, is Florida. And so Ron DeSantis is the governor, and of course he's now openly challenging Donald Trump for the campaign. He has formally announced that he is running for president, and he did this to try to be unique and progressive, and particularly attractive to those individuals and members of the American public that are really social media oriented, tech oriented. He announced last week that he was formally announced what we all knew was true, that he was going to run for president. He was running for president, and he announced it on Twitter Spaces. And Twitter Spaces is a live audio room on Twitter, which, Elon Musk, the owner of Tesla and SpaceX and the Boring Company and a number of other companies, one of the richest men in the world, purchased Twitter, bought Twitter for what, $44 billion. And he is a controversial figure. And Ron DeSantis decided to announce formally his campaign for president of the United States on Twitter Spaces. And I told you about it. I think it was 7 a.m. in the morning last Thursday, our time, 6 o'clock in the evening on Wednesday, U.S. East Florida time. And there was a lot of glitches. There was a lot of problems. It was kind of embarrassing because there's a lot of technical glitches. It wasn't accessible for the first half hour at least, and there were, again, it's embarrassing for everyone to various degrees involved. I mean, of course, Ron DeSantis launched formal announcement on Twitter in alliance, de facto alliance with Elon Musk, who is a very popular figure, controversial figure and popular figure in the United States. Yet, knowing that this is going to be a high volume event with lots of anticipation, highly reported. Still, Elon Musk and his engineers at Twitter were not able to get the Twitter Spaces prepared to handle the heavy traffic, the heavy viewership that came to the Twitter Spaces to listen to Ron DeSantis be interviewed by Elon Musk and others. They were not able to have that ready to go, to have it effective, and in which I mean, it wasn't a surprise, of course. I mean, it illustrates how difficult it is to do these things, particularly if they're new, right? Twitter Spaces, I guess, is some kind of audio chat room where many people can participate. I mean, I wasn't a heavy user of Twitter previously, so I really wasn't that familiar with it beyond just having a Twitter account, but still, even though Musk knew what was coming, and they couldn't get this set up to work correctly, and so, but they still, nevertheless, over the next 60, 90 minutes, Musk did interview DeSantis, and it was covered and carried. But there's been lots of coverage about that supposedly having been a mistake for Elon Musk and also for Ron DeSantis. Then Ron DeSantis, of course, right after that went on to other media, Fox News and others, to announce his campaign and is directly challenging and attacking Donald Trump, who's been directly attacking Ron DeSantis for weeks, maybe even months now. Now, finally, Ron DeSantis is openly challenging and attacking Donald Trump. And and I wanted to let me show you, of course, how Ron DeSantis is advocating for his candidacy, highlighting the advantages that he supposedly has over Donald Trump, who's the front runner, according to public opinion surveys, far and ahead of other groups, including individuals, including Ron DeSantis as a candidate for the Republican nomination for president. Ron DeSantis is soliciting money. Governor DeSantis is soliciting money and donations for his campaign, both for his own campaign and also for political action committees. And just to highlight here that, again, in this news report from a couple days ago, how he has been purposefully challenging and the number that others to donate to his campaign. It notes here that Ron DeSantis is highlighting his function, his role as the get things done governor, that he is the individual. Unlike Trump, he is such a professional and such a skillful political administrator and operator that, unlike Trump, who was basically, his administration was highly disorganized. Trump was very distracted. Trump did not focus his attention on policy initiatives, wasn't able to get completed what he promised to get completed, he wasn't able to build a wall across the border with Mexico to keep out immigration into the United States from Mexico that wasn't documented. I mean, aside from his tax cuts that Donald Trump was able to get through the U.S. Congress, that was it. The tax passages in terms of legislation passed. That Ron DeSantis, of course, is the man, the governor, who in Florida, as governor, as a small model, a smaller laboratory of the United States, Ron DeSantis as governor is being effective in getting legislation through the Florida legislature, implying that if he becomes president, if he wins election for president, he will be able to bring this political skill at getting legislation through the United States Congress and signed that will truly change America beyond using the power of the presidency through executive orders, which is very important. But executive orders are just one element of a president's power. And of course, we don't want to de-emphasize the importance of executive orders. I mean, Trump used those extensively in his administration to change environmental policy and other policies in the United States. But it's not permanent, because the next president can also if it can issue a new executive order. But again, executive orders are not to be underemphasized, because that was what was used by Abraham Lincoln, the 17th president, issued an executive order as commander-in-chief of the Northern armies to end slavery in those parts of the United States that were rebelling against the United States central government back in 1862, 1863. And then Harry S. Truman in 1948 issued an executive order, again as commander-in-chief of the U.S. military, ordering the desegregation of the U.S. military, that black and white troops should serve together in same integrated military units instead of having separate black units for black soldiers and so on, to encourage and support the emerging civil rights movement. So executive orders are important, but getting legislation through the Congress is really important, of course. So they highlight here DeSantis has yet to sign the $117 million budget, over which he retains a line item veto. And I think I wanted to highlight that point that Florida has a $117 billion budget. The state of Ohio, my state, has about a $50 billion annual budget. But of course, the U.S. Federal government has a $6,000 billion budget, $6,000 billion budget, $6 trillion budget. So obviously, magnitude's greater even than Florida's budget, of course, which is the third biggest state in the United States. But noticing also here that the U.S. president, of course, as you know from our exercise we did in class through the budget process, in which the U.S. president, as chief executive, issues a proposed budget for the U.S. government to the Congress, and that formally begins the budget process, the political process of adopting a budget for that $6,000 billion that's spent every year, about half of which is non-discretionary in the form of Social Security and Medicare. So the other $3,000 billion is discretionary, and that's where typically the big political struggles happen. But that whatever is eventually passed, if something is passed through the U.S. Congress as a budget proposal, the U.S. president must accept it all or attempt to veto it all. The U.S. president cannot pick and choose the different elements in the line items of the budget to accept or to veto. And of course, they highlight in this report on Ron DeSantis as governor of Florida, according to the Florida Constitution for the state of Florida, the Florida governor does have the right of a line item veto. So Ron DeSantis, as governor of Florida, can go through the budget that was adopted or passed by the Florida legislature and veto individual line items within that overall budget to spend the $117 billion that's the Florida budget. And a U.S. president does not have that. And U.S. presidents have been requesting that. They have been demanding that, but they do not have it. And that is, I think, an important point to emphasize, that if the U.S. president vetoes the entire budget, then he has to veto the entire budget. He can't pick and choose what he wants to accept and what he wants to reject within the budget. And of course, if the U.S. Congress and the president cannot agree on a budget, then they don't agree on a budget. And what typically happens is that the U.S. Congress passes a continuing resolution to continue the budget that was adopted the previous year. Will continue into the next budget year, the next fiscal year, And they've done that several times over the last 15 years in the United States since Barack Obama was elected in 2008. To pass budgets, to simply pass concurring resolution to continue with the budget that was adopted the previous year, because they couldn't agree on a new budget because the president and the Congress couldn't agree. But this line item veto is something which U.S. presidents have been requesting and over many years, over decades. And of course, if they were to get this power, it would tremendously increase the power of the president even further in the U.S. government, because the U.S. president could attempt to pick and choose what to veto, and then the U.S. Congress would have to vote to try to override his veto, which requires a 2/3 majority to override his veto. And I should note that when the Confederacy attempted to break away from the U.S. Federal government in the 1860s, they came up with their own constitution for the Confederate States of America, with Jefferson Davis as the president of the Confederate States of America, and they adopted a constitution for the Confederate States of the United States of America, the Confederate States of America, and it was the same as basically the United States Constitution, except that the Confederate president did have the line item veto put into that Constitution to give the Confederate president the ability to carry out this line item veto that Ron DeSantis has in Florida. And so, but the U.S. president does not have that power, and the Congress will never agree to give that power to a president because it makes the president even more powerful than he already is in the U.S. political system. And so, so just to highlight that point, that he is, of course, money is critically important for running a political campaign, and Ron DeSantis is approaching officials and officials within his administration in Florida are approaching donors, asking them for donations, political donations to his political campaign, which might be politically questionable, ethically questionable. But I'm sure, of course, that they are trying to make sure that they are staying within the law. And it states here that in addition to the efforts to secure support from lobbyists, again, anybody that gives money to Ron DeSantis' political campaign is going to expect that if they give money to the campaign today, that if Ron DeSantis wins the presidency in November next year and then is inaugurated on January 20th as president of the United States, they expect something back in return. That's, because we don't believe in Santa Claus. Nobody gives you something for free, right? They want something in return. So that's why one of the reasons why we're concerned or interested in who's giving money to Ron DeSantis's campaign now, because they're going to expect to get some benefit for their business interests, their cultural interests, their whatever their interests are. So in addition to efforts to secure support from lobbyists in the form of money, the main super political action committee backing Mr. DeSantis, again, it's backing Mr. DeSantis, but it's an organization that's not formally part of the DeSantis political campaign organization. It may not be legally, it's forbidden to have formal legal coordination, but it's unofficial, and they are unlimited in how much money these super PACs, super political action committees can borrow, can receive from donations. So Mr. DeSantis been announced last week that 99 of Florida's 113 Republican state legislators had endorsed Mr. DeSantis for president over Donald Trump. Again, and I guess Ron DeSantis, his ability to make other political actors do what he wants them to do, I guess is part of his appeal, right? So that he's a tough guy, that he is a strong political actor. I mean, Donald Trump was an actor. He was a reality show apprentice host on The Apprentice, right? Ron DeSantis is showing that he knows how to be a political operator, again, with the notion that if he becomes elected president, unlike Donald Trump, he will get legislation passed through the U.S. Congress that favors the right-wing agenda of the Republican Party, including, for example, restricting abortion further, abortion access further, and education policy, policing policy, which is a big topic since the Black Lives Matter movement became prominent, and so this is all part of his appeal, that he is able to carry out a political campaign in all of its details, including using the powers that he has to persuade, influence, intimidate, get support, to get things accomplished legislatively, which again, Donald Trump it was like an entertainment show. I mean, during his 4 years, a reality show that became even dangerous, of course, when the pandemic began and Trump appeared to be, unable to organize a serious national approach to dealing with that pandemic beyond Operation Warp Speed to develop a vaccine as quickly as possible. So, but still, I mean, Donald Trump remains the dominant leading figure in the political campaign, and more actors, political figures are announcing that they are also running for the Republican nomination for president. And there's been much discussion in the media again about how we might be seeing a repeat of what happened in 2015, 2016, when again, Donald Trump was able to win the nomination for president. Just to show you here, let me show you, my subscription to the New York Times. and make sure you can see what I'm seeing here on the New York Times subscription. Here you can see the New York Times, how a crowded primary field again could benefit Trump. Again, repeating what happened in 2016, 2017, that so many people running for president that they divided up the votes among Republican primary voters in the Republican primaries in Iowa, New Hampshire, South Carolina, other different states. And that plurality of people that were supportive of Donald Trump never wavered from him, but the other 15, 16 other candidates divided up the other of eligible voters, and the voters in the Republican primaries in those different states, so that Donald Trump would, even if he didn't win, he would always get, a good 15, 16, 17, 20% of the vote, while the other 80% was divided up among the other 15 candidates. And those 15 candidates would slowly drop out as they showed that they could not win, that they were not going to be the nominee, and they stopped receiving donations and support from political donors. And they one by one dropped away, and Donald Trump was left standing until, unusually for American presidential campaign, by the summer of 2016, there was still competition between Donald Trump and Ted Cruz and John Kasich. But by the late spring of 2016, it was clear that Donald Trump was one of the ones left standing would win. And there's a concern this is happening again, that basically Donald Trump might well be able to pull this off again, because now we have Chris Christie, former governor of New Jersey, has announced he's running for president. Former Vice President Mike Pence is running for president. U.S. Senator Tim Scott, the black South Carolina senator, Republican senator from South Carolina, is running for president. Nikki Haley is running for president. Ron DeSantis, governor of Florida, is running for president. Asa Hutchinson, the former governor, a Republican governor of Arkansas, announced he's running for president. And probably some others are going to announce that they're running for president. And again, they're going to divide up the campaign vote. And they're all hoping that basically Donald Trump, there you see Tim Scott, the black senator from a Republican senator from South Carolina, Nikki Haley, the former governor of South Carolina, running for president, that there's Mike Pence, that they're going to divide up the vote. And we're going to have something of a repeat of what happened in 2016. Because Donald Trump's supporters, they're like he said, he could shoot somebody. Donald Trump once said he could shoot somebody on Broadway in New York City on daylight and Broadway, and he would not lose any votes. So there's this group of Republican primary supporters that support him as with enthusiasm, and it's really difficult to shake their enthusiasm in him because he's not a professional politician, unlike Ron DeSantis, unlike Tim Scott, unlike Nikki Haley, unlike Mike Pence. Those are professional politicians, and Americans don't like professional politicians because they associate that with aristocracy, the Yangban, right? And America was founded by people rejecting the Yangban, the aristocracy, going back hundreds of years to the Puritan revolutionaries that established the United States English colonies in North America, right? They like the romantic image of the self-made man, the businessman who is successful. And that's because that's what they want to believe themselves to be. And of course, and so there's a lot of sources of his charisma. It's not just his particular characteristics, of course, his ability to perform well on an entertainment television is part of it as well. But again, in the turmoil in the post-Cold War era of globalization, and with the economic dislocations with globalization, Donald Trump remains popular. And I don't know if he, when we go into February next year, which is what, today is May, so June, July, August, September, October, November, December, January, February. So he's got 8 months is when the first primary comes around in February. I think it's in February right? It's in the wintertime in 2024. If his legal problems are going to inhibit him, stop him, affect him, or if he's going to continue to repeat what he did earlier, which is basically continue to win that 15-20% of the vote, which will cause people like Vivek Ramaswamy and Nikki Haley and others to drop out one by one, and they will have to go to support other candidates, and a number of them will go to Trump. Right. So we'll see. And I think that's what Joe Biden is expecting, that this man is going to become the nominee. And so Joe Biden will go up against him and beat him again. Whereas the other Democratic potential nominees, I mean, nobody else has got the name recognition and the status and prestige to stand up to this person, supposedly, right? Of course, so the but we'll see. I mean, Ron DeSantis is hoping that basically this person will be dragged down. Donald Trump will be dragged down by the political legal problems he's facing. But I don't know. I mean, I don't think Donald Trump will select Ron DeSantis as his vice president nominee. I think Donald Trump will try to select. Will be more likely to select somebody that will try to increase his voting share among women and Blacks and Hispanics. So maybe Nikki Haley, maybe Tim Scott are more likely to become nominees for vice president under Donald Trump than Ron DeSantis, but we'll see, right? So, okay, so on that, let me look at the notes here briefly, and again, open up the notes so that you can say that we looked at them, and so you can see, these are the notes that I posted, and let me also look at the lesson plan again, just to make sure that we know who is. Let me see if I can find those notes here. And okay, there you can see, there it is, right? So Kim Kyung-tak and Yoon Hirai have signed up for debate on Wednesday on the question to South Koreans: Donald Trump will likely win the Republican nomination for president in 2024. And so Kim Kyung-tak has said pro, and Yoon Hirai is going to argue con. So it'll be interesting to see how you marshal these positions. Will Ron DeSantis be able, and others be able to defeat Donald Trump? And and then let me look at the notes also here. So we go to the notes, and there weren't too many notes here. So let me again make sure that you're able to see what I'm able to see. And we go to the notes, and so you can see here are the notes, right? So presidential trends in some swingy and not so swingy states. Again, Florida used to be considered a swing state. It would vote Democratic or Republican. It was always a close election, right? Back in 2000, 23 years ago, George W. Bush won Florida in the U.S. presidential election over Al Gore by 500 votes. 500 votes. It was close. Barack Obama won Florida in 1 year and lost it in another when he was running for president in 2008 and then running for re-election in 2012. And then we start to see now that Florida has become apparently under Ron DeSantis a red state. I mean, Ron DeSantis won re-election for governor in November of last year in 2022. He defeated Charlie Crist, his Democratic nominee opponent, former governor of Florida, ever-present political figure in Florida, well-known, long history in Florida, and he beat him by 19 percentage points. So Ron DeSantis has not just beat Charlie Crist, he won in a landslide. Again, despite all of his support of right-wing culture, so-called culture war political issues, including, restricting access to abortion and forbidding discussion of critical race theory in U.S. and Florida schools, because from our class that state governments have primary responsibility over education as well as public health in the American political system. Like during the pandemic, Ron DeSantis highlighted how he was supposedly the first state, or one of the first states, to end pandemic restrictions in Florida. And apparently he's claiming that the subsequent development of the world in fighting the COVID-19 pandemic illustrated or indicated he was correct, that and of course there were consequences of pandemic shutdowns. I mean, many American schools were shut for months and months, and the children are set back in their education. They lost so much time in education. Ron DeSantis is claiming, see, I was right. You know, he was very skeptical of Dr. Anthony Fauci, the American lead scientist in the national government in responding to the pandemic. And, you know, and that's what Ron DeSantis is highlighting, that Donald Trump wasn't right-wing enough, that Donald Trump was did not challenge Anthony Fauci, Dr. Anthony Fauci sufficiently, that he gave him too much authority, that also Donald Trump was was easier on crime, supposedly. As I said, Ron DeSantis won in a landslide in November of 2022. So, you know, all of these developments, I'm sure, have encouraged Ron DeSantis and his supporters to believe that, you know, clearly Ron DeSantis supposedly has an ability to do to take on Trump. I mean, if they thought that they couldn't beat Trump, he wouldn't be trying to beat Trump. And so we'll see. I mean, you know, this so-called invisible primary, this is critically important. But again, you know, having said what I just said, you know, it was true, you know, 8 years ago, 7 years ago, in 2015, 2016, that Jeb Bush supposedly was winning. The brother of George W. Bush, the governor of Florida at the time, was Jeb Bush. He was the governor, and he was when his brother won the presidency in 2000. Then he stepped down. He was no longer governor of Florida, but then he decided to run for president, and we thought that he was going to win because he was getting so much more support from Republican donors in 2015 and 2016. So money, you know, in the so-called invisible primary, this period right now doesn't necessarily determine the outcome of the election, even though, of course, many people like to believe that it's all about the money. It's all about the money. And money obviously is critically important, but, you know, but that's not sufficient. So, you know, we'll see what happens here over the next months. I mean, but we will not know who's going to be the nominee until we go into the primary process, right? We know that, you know, Joe Biden will be the nominee for the U.S. Democrat Party to be reelected as president of the United States, but it will be interesting to see if Ron DeSantis's better ability to raise money from donors is going to be from powerful, rich people, right? I mean, Donald Trump is very popular among more common, typical members of the American public in the Republican Party. Donald Trump gets lots of donations, small donations, right? $20, $50, $100 donations. Ron DeSantis is appealing to the powerful and rich political figures in the United States, and to get support and get donations. And but again, you know, Jeb Bush also dominated those groups back in 2015 and 16, and he eventually lost. So okay, so there was some discussion about in the readings about how Maine and Nebraska are the only two states out of the 50 states in the United States, the only two, Maine and Nebraska, that divide up their electoral college votes. So Maine and Nebraska chose because, as highlighted in that video I was showing at the start of the class today, right, that they have decided that they would assign the electoral college votes for Maine and Nebraska by dividing them up in proportion to how many popular votes candidates won in the presidential election in Maine and Nebraska. So so they highlight in the notes, the 2020 election was unprecedented in many ways, including the fact that both parties nominated their oldest candidates in history, and it was held during the pandemic. And again, it's likely going to be those two individuals again, unless Ron DeSantis can do something that, yeah, we'll see. We'll see what happens, right? 48 states and the District of Columbia award their electoral college votes on a winner-take-all basis, except for Maine and Nebraska, right? Maine and Nebraska, however, allocate their electoral college votes according to a candidate's electoral win within each electoral district in a state. So Nebraska has been allocating its electoral college votes by congressional district since 1992. So, you know, that means that there are 2 senators plus 3 congressmen in Nebraska, right? In the 485 members of the U.S. Congress, 3 come from Nebraska, and plus the 2 senators for Nebraska means they has 5 electoral college votes. So Nebraska has been allocating its electoral college votes by congressional districts since 1992. Nebraska has 3 congressional districts with each carrying one electoral college vote. The presidential candidate who wins the statewide election overall gets the remaining 2 electoral college votes in Nebraska. Okay, so it's an interesting example or case study. So just to remind you about the electoral college, let me again stop the share and go open up a Wikipedia page and show you the election for in 2020 U.S. presidential election 2020, and just to open that up here, and so we go here. So make sure you can see that. So share the screen, and there you can see the Wikipedia page entry for 2020 election, and you can see that Nebraska. There's Nebraska, and there is Maine way up here. So we click on Nebraska, and it takes you to Nebraska, and the 2020 presidential election in Nebraska, and it shows you that Donald Trump, for various reasons, these tend to be it's a farming state, right? Nebraska grows and lots of crops for particularly commodity crops for export and for grain, corn, wheat, cattle feed, and also a lot of meat, cattle and the like. So you can see in the rural farming areas, Donald Trump dominated, where and it's a very sparsely populated state, right? I mean, if it's got three congressional districts, that means it's about what, 1.5 million people live there maximum, 1.5 million, about the size of Buchan, right? And then, but look where it's blue. Biden won where there's the big cities are concentrated. So the Democratic Party tends to dominate in urban areas. This is where you tend to find the higher end jobs, people paying more money for the work that's done in these cities. This is where you find your highly skilled white collar workers tend to be concentrated in the big cities. This is also tend to be where you find the universities, and so you can see that Donald Trump won in the 2 congressional districts, and therefore he also got the 2 electoral college votes from the Senate that Nebraska has. But Biden got 1 electoral college vote in Nebraska. And of course, there are different reasons why Nebraska adopted the system. Of course, there are drawbacks as well. People who do not like this system in Nebraska highlight that basically it causes presidential candidates to devote less time and energy to Nebraska, because Joe Biden, the most he's going to get, he's basically going to assume that he's not going to get these votes, right? That these are going to always go for a Republican. Although maybe you can say that, if this was a good idea, because it's always been known that the rural areas of these states, like in Nebraska and all the other states, they tend to vote Republican. So if you break up the electoral college allocation so that at least 1 electoral college vote is possible for Joe Biden to win, the Democrats to win, then, the state won't be totally ignored, right? I mean, these other states, if you look at, for example, like another red state, you look at, for example, Kansas. Kansas is always going to vote Republican, right? And so if you were Biden running for president, you're not going to spend much time at all in 2020 or 2024 trying to win votes in Kansas, because you probably think it's hopeless. And so you can spend that money in Nebraska to get that 1 electoral college vote. If that you have in your political campaign treasure chest, spend money to win the 1 electoral college vote you can possibly get in Nebraska. But why spend money in Kansas when Kansas is a typical winner-take-all state, like the other 48 states in the United States? And so that's one of the reasons why this chapter focuses on Nebraska. And just to highlight in the notes, the fact that these urban areas are the fastest growing areas, and they tend to be the areas that also are the areas that are going to be the places where political value change happens, right? I mean, this is again the areas that are more prosperous. You also have more poverty focused here, because of course you have big urban areas. So you have people living in the urban areas who don't own property, that don't own land, that don't own real estate, that are living in the urban environments. because they're no, you have the high wealth and the high poverty areas in the cities, and those groups are both more likely to vote Democratic. So just to go back to the notes, you see here. So make sure that you're able to see what I'm seeing here. So known as the Cornhusker State. Nebraska is safely Republican. Barack Obama did win the Omaha-based 2nd district in 2008. So Omaha is the big city, right, in Nebraska. About 80% of Nebraska's voters are concentrated in Omaha's Douglas County. The rest are concentrated in Sharpie County and make up the rest, leaning Republican. So the Omaha area voted for Republicans after 2008, but then shifted to Biden for 2020. College-educated whites in general swung to Biden. It reflects a general national trend. Geographically disparate, but demographically similar groups are voting more similarly. So in other words, American politics is becoming more like British politics. The people tend to vote in their local elections, including for congressperson, congressman, or senator, but also for, as well as for president, based upon their understanding of the national issues, rather than less so, as had been more common in the past, to vote on the basis of how is that congressperson going to help my district in its unique features in Nebraska, in this part of Nebraska, wherever I'm voting, wherever I live, that politics and elections all through the United States, including the congressional elections and senator elections, are becoming nationalized. Like, you're voting for Trump because you think Trump is best for what's for America. Whether you live in Nebraska or Florida as a Republican, and you're not going to focus so much on what are the particular needs of Nebraskans in Nebraska or in the Midwest of the United States. And that's becoming more important than geographic location. And, you know, Britain has always been this way, but now the United States is becoming this way. And it reflects, for example, in the greater polarization between the parties. The Republican Party is the party of white American identity, among other values, but that's an important part of Republican Party identity. And the Democratic Party is the party of minority groups, and basically fear of white identity domination because of the association of white identity with conservative politics, and restrictions on social justice and political and civil rights protection is more of a focus in the Democratic Party, because it tends to represent both traditionally more disadvantaged groups and also more highly educated groups. So the Republican Party is becoming the party of white Americans who have less education. I mean, again, these are just general statements. I mean, but that's a change, right? It had been up until recently that white college-educated people with bachelor's degree, tended to vote Republican, and that's starting to change. That white people with bachelor's degrees are shifting away from the Republican Party, so that majority of white voters with bachelor's and degrees and higher are voting for Democratic Party. Okay, and again, and so it highlighted in 2020 election that as occurred nationally, the Democratic House congressional districts did more poorly than expected in suburban districts, including in the 2nd district in Nebraska, despite Biden winning it. Again, the book was written following the 2020 election. It obviously does not cover the 2022 election, and the Democratic Party did surprisingly well in the congressional elections in 2022. They still lost control of the House of Representatives, but the Republicans got only a few seats. So they only have a 5-seat majority in the House of Representatives in the U.S. Congress. And the Democrats increased their senators that are Democratic by 1. So they kept control of the Democratic Party. Democratic Party kept control of the Senate, of the U.S. Senate, and they got one additional seat in the Senate. So that requires, you know, another book to cover. Maine has 2 congressional districts. It began splitting its electoral votes in 1972 because that's how Maine decided to do it. Presidential voting behavior was the same in these two districts into 2000, but in 2000, Al Gore won the state by 5%, winning the first district by 8%, but only by 2% in the second district. Again, the first district includes the state capital of August, Maine, and the liberal city of Portland, and the coastal town of Kennebunkport, which is a summer resort area. So a lot of white, wealthy people tend to go to Kennebunkport in the summertime. The second district includes the rugged northern part of the state with its declining logging industry. So Maine is predominantly a rural, poor state. And it provides fertile ground for populist candidates. So in the 1990s, the Reform Party, led by Ross Perot, performed well there. Trump briefly announced, of course, it's not the first time. 2016 wasn't the first time Trump announced he was running for president. Trump briefly announced he was running for president back in 2000 under the Reform Party, on the Reform Party ticket, which was formed by Ross Perot, another billionaire Texas business person who formed his own separate party, and that party pretty much has disappeared. Trump learned from that basically he was never going to win the presidency on a third party. It just doesn't happen. And so Trump quickly ended his campaign on the Reform Party and then ran for president on the Republican Party in 2016. Obama carried Maine easily twice when he ran for president in 2008 and 2012. But Hillary Clinton won it barely in 2016 with 48% of the vote against Trump's 45% of the vote in Maine. So for the first time, Maine split its electoral college vote. Trump won the second district in Maine by 37,000 votes, while Clinton won the first district by almost 57,000 votes. So Clinton won 3 electoral college votes to Trump's 1. In 2020, the second district stayed red, while Biden won the state overall by 53% to 44%, but he still only won 3 of the 4 electoral college votes in 2020. Trump still won 1 of them. Again, so even though Biden defeated Trump in 2020 by 7 million popular votes, there was not much of a blue voting wave in support of the Democrats in the Senate and in the House of Representatives. They still controlled the Senate and the House, but they lost many seats so that their majority, the Democratic majority, was, I think, 7 seats after the 2020 election. But then after the 2022 election, the Republicans did surprisingly poorly. They typically do much better in an off-year election because people protest against the president in office at the time. But still, the Democrats just lost a few seats instead of the 30, 40, 50 seats that many were predicting. They only lost a few, so that the Republicans today only have a 5-seat majority in the House of Representatives. Okay, so having covered some of the notes, and let's do an exercise. Yay, exercise! So let me divide you up into groups of 4 here. And so let me do the stop share and go to breakout rooms. And so let me divide you into 4 groups, 1, 2, 3, 4, and assign automatically. And so you can see we have groups of 3 and 4 today. And so just so we have that, let me show you what I want to cover here. So let me open up a discussion of voting. Hooray, voting. And is this, let me see if I got the right package here. Is this the right one? Let me see here. Okay. And let me see here just a second, because I have a number of files I have to try to find. Here it is. All right. Well, okay. So yeah, that's not the one I want to focus on. So we'll go to the other one. Just a second here. And okay, so let me send you this file. And so what I will do now is I will go to chat, and I will show chat, and I will go to send a message. So let me attach a file. And let me go to the USGOV and send you this file. And so please download this file and let me find it here. And so again, let me check to make sure I got the right one here. Yeah, that's the one. Okay. Okay, so open. And so let me send you that file. And so I've sent you a file. So please open that file. I sent it to the chat function on Zoom. So please open the file and download it and open it up. And open file, hooray! And so there you can see the file. And it says ingredients of a campaign. And so what I would like you to do first is to divide you into 4 groups. So let me see here. We have group this one, and we have 1, 2, and so imagine you are Ron DeSantis' political campaign. Okay, you're Ron DeSantis' political campaign, and what I would like you to do now is to group 1. Let me assign you. You can see here the groups. They're the breakout rooms. So room 1 will do this first exercise. So you're running for Ron DeSantis. You're promoting Ron DeSantis' political campaign. You're managing Ron DeSantis' campaign for president. So group 1 will do this exercise. Group 2, excuse the numbering because I didn't make the numbering, will do this exercise. Group 3, do this exercise, right, here. And group 4, do this exercise, okay? So, so there you can see, I think you can see the breakout rooms I'm going to assign you to. And so let me go ahead and assign you to those groups and open them up. And so again, you please do a task that was assigned. And let me ask Siri who's going to speak for each group. So let me ask Siri to pick a number between 1 and 4. So let me do that now. Siri, pick a number between 1 and 4.
That would be 1.
Okay, so it's going to be Jungyeon John will speak for room 1. Kim Chon Tek will speak for room 2. Julie will speak for room 3. And Han Kwang will speak for room 4. Okay, so please help those individuals prepare to give the rest of the class your feedback, your group's completion of the assignment, of the tasks, okay? So let me open the rooms. And please join the rooms, please. Please join the rooms. So Chunyeon John and Sunwoo Park and Yuna Hirai in room 1. And Yoon Yang Kyu Sok in room 1 as well. So yeah, you're joining your groups. Han Huang, please join room 4. And Marichez Maeva, please join room 4. And okay. So Marichez Maeva, where's Marichez? Where's Chung Minju? Minju, where's Minju? Where's Yang Kyu-sok? Yang Kyu-sok and Chung Minju, please join your groups. Okay, and so the first person each group will speak for the group. So please do those assigned tasks, okay? And so I'll give you a little time to complete the tasks. And maybe I can send you maybe I should send you also the Ron DeSantis article that I just showed you. Park, you.
Yeah, Professor, actually, we didn't download it our PDF file. Can you send us again in this room 1?
Okay, let me do it again here. Just a second here.
Thank you.
All right, chat. Oh, can I do this? I don't know if I can send it. I have to leave the breakout room.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I think let me send the file again through
Email.
through my email. Okay.
All right.
So let me
Thank
do that
you.
here. And so okay, I sent the files. Check your email.
Thank you.
Okay.
Professor,
Han Ka-hyun. Yes.
can you tell us what activity we have to do one more time?
Which room number are you in?
We are in the number 4.
So you do the this exercise here.
We can see
one.
we can't see your screen. You're not
Uh,
letting us know your screen.
okay. Let me your screen so you can see that this is your screen. So you do this, you could do this one here. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, for room 4, you do the number 3 because the numbering is kind of messed up. Okay, and I sent the files by email as well, so you can check your email account.
All right. Thank you, sir.
Mm-hmm.
함이라고 알려줘.
Min Hyebin, yes, yes. What can I do for you, Min Hyebin?
Oh, we're in room 3,
Yes,
and we don't know what activity we should.
you should do this exercise, room 2, this number 2 exercise.
Number 2.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Professor.
Okay. Okay, so let's go ahead and do the first exercise because that's sort of a uh, 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 game activity. So that means that we go to the Junyong Chon or Chon Chon.
Yeah, but we
Okay,
couldn't finish it.
you couldn't finish. Do you need more
Yeah.
time?
Yeah.
You need more time? How much more time? A few
Uh,
minutes?
sorry.
A few minutes?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yes,
a
sir.
few more minutes. Back in your rooms.
Thank you.
Three more minutes. Okay, so let's ask Siri this time. Let's pick a number, a room to begin with randomly. Siri, pick a number between 1 and 4.
It's 2.
Okay, so that is Kim Kontak, room 2. So room 2,
Yes.
this number first exercise. So Kim Kontak, match the activity with illustration, draw lines to make pairs, then choose 3 terms and write sentences. So where does this picture go? With what phrase?
Play convention is
That is
right.
National Convention. You're saying that's National Convention? Let me see. Is that National Convention? You can see my screen here, right? Oh, you said pre-convention.
Yes, right.
This one here?
I think nothing on screen sharing.
It looks like personal appearance, doesn't it? Like he's talking to voters at a campaign. Or it says, oh no, look, it's got little dollar signs here. Fundraising, right? He's trying to raise money. See, he wants dollars. And so what does this picture go with?
Sorry. We think we learned to do the long question, long exercise.
You're group 2, right?
We did
This one?
candidates to what and when.
Candidates do what and when? Let me see here.
We
This
did
one.
that.
Which one? This exercise? Or this exercise?
Professor, did you screen sharing for
Yeah,
us?
can you see that? Yeah.
I can't see anything. Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Not this one. Just we did.
Which one? The first one? This one?
No.
Number three.
Number 3.
Okay.
Yes.
Yes. That. No. Yes, right.
Okay. So what goes in pre-convention?
Pre-convention is E. On your public nomination
Okay.
and pick a political party and jump in.
Pick a political party and jump in. Okay.
Yes, and win delegates at the primaries.
Win delegates. Well, that's yeah, before the convention. Yeah. Well, that would be national campaign, wouldn't it? That would be the national campaign, right? Campaign in person across the country, run savvy campaign ads, or both. It's both pre-convention. Yeah, okay, both. What goes in both?
Keep an eye on your opponent.
Keep an eye on your opponent. Okay.
And fundraise.
Yeah.
And take a stand on the issues.
Okay.
Yes, that's all.
Okay. Who else did exercise 3? Who else did exercise 3? Anybody else? If not, then we will go to the first exercise, and that's group 1. Okay, group 1. So who is group 1? So group 1 is who's speaking for it? Chun Jung.
Yeah, it's me.
Okay, so what did you put in here in the DeSantis campaign? Fill in the details for each ingredient below. 2 campaign expenses. What would
First
be?
one is campaign ads, and second one is image consulting.
Okay. Yeah, so, professional political scientists who know how to run political campaigns, do political polling, run focus groups. Yeah, this is where if you go, you major in political science in college, you might be able to make some money or make a career as an image consultant or working for a political campaign company, right? Particularly if you can do public opinion polling, you can do survey polling. What would be a funding source? How are you going to pay for this?
I think the super PAC will be efficient.
Super fun.
Getting support from the rich.
But you're not supposed to be able to, you're not supposed to be campaigning, working with those groups directly, right? In those super PACs, they do whatever they do. You, as a member of the DeSantis campaign, are not supposed to have any, this is difficult to enforce, but you're not supposed to have any kind of coordination with the super PAC, right? Your political campaign organization is separate from the super PAC organizations. So we all know that these super PACs are helping Ron DeSantis and Nikki Haley and whomever and Joe Biden, but they're officially not supposed to be coordinating, and that means they're not supposed to have the same personnel in leading these super PACs that are also having official positions in the Biden campaign or the Trump campaign or the DeSantis campaign on EO. So, but at the same time, and I assume you're not supposed to be communicating. You're not supposed to be sending emails back and forth. You're not supposed to be, I think you're supposed to be careful about even making phone calls. You're not supposed to be communicating with each other. But typically these people that run these super PACs, they are former ex-officials from the Biden campaign or the Trump administration or the Trump campaign. So they know the thinking. Supposedly they know or are aware of the thinking and objectives and political aims of their former boss, their former President Biden or former boss, the President Trump, but they're not supposed to be communicating with them today, right? So that's the irony, and that's the confusing element about these reporting on super PACs, because these super PACs are not supposed to be under the control of the DeSantis campaign, for example. So you'll read about that in a later chapter in the Return to Normalcy book about these super PACs and their relationship to the political campaign organizations. It's supposed to be separate. The political campaigns, there's limitations on how much money they can receive in terms of how much donations they can get from one particular donor. It's typically like a few $1,000s at most per donation. You can't give more than that. But these super PACs, they can receive unlimited amount of money. And yeah, I mean, you can say it's kind of false, the separation, but the justification for these super PACs is that people should be able to express their political opinions freely. And if they want to express their political opinion by giving money to different political organizations that are promoting some ideological objective or some policy goal, they can do that. You can give as much money as you want, right? So, for example, there was a report several months ago that one person gave $1.6 billion to a super PAC that is promoting conservative right-wing political objectives, including restrictions on abortion, but it's not formally cooperating with the Trump campaign, right? But clearly they're going to do a lot of work to promote the Republican nominee for president, whoever that person will be. Okay, what are two uses of data?
One is racial ratio for a area, and second one will be the income of the residents for a area.
Okay, interesting. Okay. Yeah, so like suburban housewives, there was a lot of discussion about soccer moms, suburban housewives who have some degree of education, that are living comfortable lives, that they might swing supporting Trump or against Trump. And that's a big concern for the Trump campaign and the Republicans, that now that Trump fulfilled his promise to nominate judges to the U.S. Supreme Court that would overturn Roe versus Wade, that a lot of those women in those suburban women living in the suburbs of the American cities, they're going to turn against Trump. And that's going to make Republican election efforts more difficult, right? So you want to know, something about those people to see how you can appeal to them, how you can attract them. Okay, and your data source, what would your data source? What's one data source?
We'll be able to get them from the U.S. Census Bureau.
Okay. Yeah, there are a lot of different organizations. The Harris organization, Harris polls, Gallup polls, a lot of different organizations carry out polling. A lot of political scientists carry out polling. Some political polling organizations are more reputable and prestigious than others. Of course, they've been coming under challenge because, again, the polling was surprisingly most polls did not expect Hillary Clinton to lose in 2016, although she did get more votes than Donald Trump, almost 3 million more votes than Donald Trump. She still lost, and most polling organizations did not foresee that. So there's been a lot of criticism of these polling organizations, and of course, these political scientist people are trying to come up with better ways to poll, but it's difficult. It's not easy because, again, I told you how in my home state of Ohio, they were shocked that that Donald Trump won by 8 percentage points over Hillary Clinton, and the polls didn't indicate that. Generally, the overall polls, when you looked at all of them, they didn't expect Donald Trump to win overwhelmingly like he did. And then they tried in 2020 to get it right in Ohio this time in 2020. And again, Donald Trump won by 8 percentage points. And again, that was a surprise. So this is not easy to do. This used to seem to be easier in the past. Okay, and personal appearances, write an important piece of information about each of these campaign actions. Campaign ads, what about campaign ads?
Proper content for proper state. I think the campaign ads for California or New York and Tennessee or Georgia must be different.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if you really want to spend much money and effort on California because that Donald Trump is not going to win California, right? That Joe Biden will win California. So you're not going to spend money on campaign ads in California and New York because you're going to win those anyway. But you're probably going to spend campaign ads in, you have to make a decision if you're going to spend campaign money on Florida. Do you still think that Florida is a swing state that could vote for Joe Biden in 2024? I don't know. That's a difficult question. I mean, it's the third biggest state, so it's an important state. Used to be a swing state, but not anymore. I mean, we'll see what happens. Those are difficult questions. There's only like 10 swing states. I'd have to, off the top of my head, they used to be Colorado, Nevada, Arizona, Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania, but no longer Ohio, and apparently no longer Florida. Although maybe it's too early to write that off. I mean, if Ron DeSantis gets the nomination, of course, he will win Florida in the presidential election in November of 2024, right? But if Donald Trump wins the nomination for president to run for the Republican nomination, is he going to win Florida? I don't know. But this is what these people, get paid to figure out. How much, where are we going to, because you never have enough resources. So you have to figure out where you're going to target your resources, right? Where you have a chance of making a difference through your campaign advertisements. And of course, campaign advertisements are not going to change the outcome of elections, right? Campaign advertisements are supposed to position your candidate to exploit trends in people's attitudes and values to make yourself appear to be the answer to their questions that they're having about their lives and their world. So, okay, but we need to move on here. So, did anybody do group exercise 1? This one? If not, let's go to group 3. Sorry, group 3. You did this exercise, right? The candidate's mind map, running for president. So that was group 3. So who was group 3? That was Julie, group 3. Okay, Julie. So the issues that are important to my campaign are, if you're Ron DeSantis, Julie? Julie? Where's Julie?
Yes, sorry. My Wi-Fi is very bad. I cannot fully hear you.
Oh. Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can.
Okay, so you're creating your camp. Did you do this exercise?
Say my Wi-Fi was not working. I couldn't hear what my group was doing, so I saw a little bit what you showed, but not. It's difficult to follow.
Okay, what about who else can step in? So Min Hyebin, did you do this exercise? Min Hyebin?
Oh, yes, we did.
Okay, the issues that are important to my campaign are what?
But we can fill this creating your campaign one.
Okay, what else?
Raising money is PAC, super PAC,
Okay, Super PAC. And
and by religions.
yeah, they probably would establish a Super PAC. Because there's limit. Again, they can't give, according to American finance campaign laws, you can only give money up to a certain amount, like a $2,000 per person to a political candidate or political campaign. And that's true with individuals and organizations. So, though you might go to those churches and ask individuals in the church. Yeah, I guess you could say, for example, if you're going to go to churches and you want individual church members to give money to your campaign, again, this is Donald Trump. I mean, Donald Trump is very, very popular among white evangelical Christian voters, right? So those individuals, you might want to appeal through the churches. Yes, but that means you're going to appeal to the pastors or politically active ministers who lead those churches, like Ron Jeffries, or there's different high-profile individuals that you will ask to endorse Donald Trump or Ron DeSantis or Mike Pence, and with the understanding that they will have an impact on the votes of and campaign donations of their people that go to those big churches that belong to the evangelical movement. Okay. Sharing your message. In order to share my message with voters, what will you do?
SNS or social medias.
Okay, yeah. I mean, that's a focus later on in the chapter when you read about social media and its role in the campaign. And of course, the Democrats made a big improvement in 2020 campaign in using social media when they were criticized in not being very effective in 2016, and so that was a big difference. So you read about that in a later chapter in the book that we're using now. And I can get data. You need good data. Where are you going to get your data from?
Polls.
Polls, yes. Anywhere else?
And from professors.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, some professors in political, they do their own polling. Yeah. Okay, so who did this exercise? Group 3, exercise 3. Was this group 4? Group 4, yes. No, we already did this one. Group 4, did you do this exercise too? Group 4, and that is Juan Huang. Did you do this exercise?
Which one?
Which one did you do?
We're not really sure which one do we do. I think it's when the is a candidate do what when.
Oh, okay. And how Okay, so where did you put win delegates at the primaries? In the national campaign or at the convention or both?
Can you repeat, please?
Where would you put I here?
I think pre-convention.
Yeah, you can see my screen, right? Yeah.
Mm,
Yeah. So where you put a pre-convention?
yes.
Okay. Okay, or both. Okay, so let me move on here. So we got to, we don't. I want to go through this because when we meet on Wednesday, we have to do the debate, right? So we have let me see how many questions exercise we have here. A, B, C. Okay. And 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's do okay, group 1, do exercise 1. Group 2, do exercise 2. Group 3, do exercise 3. And group 4, do exercise 4. Okay. And so on these exercises 1, 2, group 1 will do this exercise, group 2 will do this exercise, group 3 will do this exercise, and group 4 will do this exercise. And again, so let me choose who's going to speak. So let me go to Siri here. And Siri, pick a number between 2 and 4.
It's 3.
Okay, so that means we're going to have the third person speak in the groups. So let me go back to the breakout rooms, and that is Yunahirai for room 1, Yukon Bean for room 2, Han Ka-hyun for room 3, and Kim Nam Chung for room 4. Okay, so let me open up the rooms. So please work on those exercises, okay?
Sir, could you let me know who is going to be presenting for room 2?
Yukon Bean.
Thank you.
Join the groups.
think so.
Somebody asked for help. Somebody asked for help.
Oh,
Who asked for help?
yeah, we were not sure which exercise we have to do in the file.
So you're going to do your group three. So do the third exercise here. You can see it here. Go to share screen, and you see this one.
Ah,
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Professor,
Yeah.
can you let us to share our screen between us?
Oh, okay. Let me do that. I didn't think about that. Okay, so let me share screen. Okay, yeah, multiple participants can share. Thank you. Yes.
Thank you,
Done.
Professor.
Mhm.
그러면 thank you.
Hi. Okay. Siri. Siri, pick a number between 1 and 4.
The answer is 3.
Okay, so Siri picks 3, so that means the group 3, so that is Han Ka-hyun. Han Ka-hyun on the exercise number 3. Han Ka-hyun. All right, Han Ka-hyun. So make sure we can see that. Han Ka-hyun. Han Ka-hyun is going to speak. So Han Ka-hyun, it says here, during a political party's what?
Oh, we didn't do this exercise. What we did was, we were choosing the pre-convention and national campaign, and both that was what we were doing.
So you were doing this up here?
Yeah.
Hmm.
We thought this was the number 3 that you were saying.
Oh, okay. Let me ask okay, so let me ask Siri. Siri, pick a number between 1 and 3.
It's 2.
Okay, so group 2. So group 2, did you do this exercise, group 2? Group 2. And group 2 is who's group 2? Group 2. Group 2 is Han-bin. Where's Han-bin? Han-bin.
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, so you did group exercise 2, right? So it says here, for each of the word trios, decide whether the terms are related or unrelated and explain why. Conservative, liberal, and issues. Are they related or unrelated?
Unrelated,
Unrelated? Why are they unrelated?
because I thought liberal and conservatives were beliefs and issues.
Beliefs about what?
Beliefs about how the government should work or move on.
Isn't that issues?
No.
No, why not? Hmm? You want to
Maybe they're
change?
related.
Are they related? You're saying they're related now. Okay. So campaign convention debate, are they related or unrelated?
Related,
Why are they related?
because they're all different steps of the presidential campaign.
Yeah, the debate is really highlighted. I mean, everybody's looking forward to the debates when Hillary Clinton is debating Donald Trump or Donald Trump is debating Joe Biden. And I guess that was a critical event in the 2020 election when Joe Biden did well, apparently sufficiently well, and Donald Trump, it's hard to say what impact the debate had in determining the outcome of the election. Again, I'm hesitant to comment it because again, I remember 2016. I mean, people like me tended to believe that Hillary Clinton, quote, won the debates against Donald Trump, right? But and I just remember the coverage of the debates that Donald Trump looked, Hillary Clinton looked really cool and she looked really professional. And I remember just on social media posts on my Facebook, that highlighting how, yeah, Hillary Clinton did really, really well. And then she ended up losing the election. But somehow they really are important. This was going on during the pandemic. Maybe after the fact later, of course, Donald Trump made some appeals to right-wing militia groups and the Americans, the Proud Boys. He told them to stand back and stand by. And then later on January 6, 2021, the Proud Boys took a major role in assaulting the Congress, as if Donald Trump knew that if he lost the election, he would rely upon them and call upon them to try to overturn the election. So these people that carried out that assault, including the Proud Boys and the Oath Keepers, they're now being put in jail. They're being tried on trial in courts and being put in jail, sentenced to jail. So, but that event where Donald Trump told the Proud Boys during his debate with Joe Biden to stand back and stand by, is always referenced in the media coverage. Okay, 3, electoral college, polling, and PAC. Are those related or unrelated?
Unrelated.
I guess everything is ultimately related in the great scheme of things. But yeah, I guess electoral college and PAC. I mean, the electoral college is supposed to just vote on the basis of the outcome of the election. So they're not really related to polling and because their activity is not dependent upon the PACs and the polls. They get together in December and they cast their votes for the presidency. And according to the state law of Nebraska, the state law of Maine, the state law of Florida, the state law of Ohio, the electoral college delegates vote according to the law as specified in each of those states. And of course, Nebraska and Maine are the 2 states that break up their electoral college that allow a candidate to win less than all of the less than all of the electoral college votes. 48 states plus the District of Columbia, where Washington City state is capital, the national capital is located. They have winner take all systems according to their state law, right? So in Ohio, my home state, whoever gets more votes than anybody else will get all 16 electoral college votes from Ohio. But Maine and Nebraska are the 2 exceptions, right? Okay, and vote, personal appearance, and Republican Party.
Unrelated.
Okay, unrelated, right? But of course, you know, ultimately, still they are related in some way, but less so than these other ones, like liberal conservative issues, right? That's typically considered related because liberal conservative about what? Liberal conservative regarding, at least people think they're liberal conservative on the basis of issues. I guess you could say that's problematic because people will tell you that they're liberal because they're concerned about, or conservative because they're concerned about issues. But people might say they're conservative because they support Donald Trump, and they support Donald Trump because they really like Donald Trump. Even if they're not so enthusiastic about banning abortion, they like Donald Trump because he stands up to these troublesome minority groups that some people might view as a threat to law and order in America. You know, I mean, that's a fact, right? But people, and that's an issue about polling, right? When you ask people questions, they have to give you a response, and they want to give a response that makes them feel like they're a responsible voter. But what their true motivation for liking Donald Trump might be something other than what they tell you or what they tell themselves are the reasons why they like Donald Trump. And that's a really problematic issue, right? But it comes up, it's not insignificant because, again, you see when these public opinion polls are incorrect leading up to the election, shows us that there is a serious issue about how you get people to clearly and obviously reflect their true political motivations, right? And this is a difficult topic to study, you know, and how difficult it is clear evidently in the last 3 presidential elections. Okay, so we're running out of time here. So group four did this exercise, and group 3 did this exercise. So group 4. So what word did you choose? Group 4. Group 4 is who was supposed to speak for group 4? So Kim Nam Chung. So what word did you put in word 1 for number 1 here?
I put debate.
Debate. And your definition?
Is sit down with other people.
Well, it can be sit down. Of course, we saw that Donald Trump and Joe Biden didn't sit during their debates. I mean, again, typically, I'm thinking about debate in terms of, let's see, does it have a debate? Oh, yes, you can see debate, a public discussion of important questions involving differing opinions. Okay, and what did you put in group word 2?
It is funding.
Funding. So let's go up here and we look for funding, fundraise, verb, to collect money for a political party, charity, or school, and funding. Money, that's the noun version. Money provided for a political purpose, like political campaigns or other projects. Okay, what did you put in word 3?
Oppose.
What was that?
Oppose. Meaning
Oppose.
Against.
Oh, oppose. Okay, to disagree with or disapprove of something or someone. Okay. So yeah, I mean that's a problem with Donald Trump, that now Donald Trump has become more obvious in terms of what he would do if he was president, that a lot of people will vote against Donald Trump. That's what Ron DeSantis is saying. Donald Trump has shown he cannot win. He will not win. If he wins the nomination in 2024 for president for the Republican Party, he's going to lose again, unless something really amazing happens, like Joe Biden gets sick and he has a stroke during the political campaign, which, you know, is not impossible given how old he is, right? So some people are going to support somebody else like Ron DeSantis because they just oppose Donald Trump, because and their argument that they're making is because he's going to lose again. We can bet on it. He's not going to win. He's going to lose. So go with Ron DeSantis. We'll see how that affects donors and voters. And for
Convention.
Yeah, I mean the convention will be, certainly with Donald Trump making it more exciting. You know, I'm sure that's going to be the issue coming into the convention. Who is Donald Trump going to choose as his running mate? Nikki Haley or Tim Scott? That will probably, but the outcome of the primary will be determined before the convention. The outcome of the nomination process will be determined before the convention occurs. Okay, and number 5, government. Did you say government? An organization that is in control of a country, state, or city. Okay. Well, thank you very much. That's our time for today, and you know, we'll cover more of these topics as we meet. But so we're going to have a debate on Wednesday, and so it'll be interesting to see the arguments made as to why you think Donald Trump will become let me see, what is that topic? What is the debate topic again? So the debate topic is again, just to share the screen, the debate topic is that to South Koreans, Donald Trump will likely win the Republican nomination for president. So will Donald Trump become the Republican nominee in 2024? Okay, that's it for today. Any questions? If not, see you on Wednesday.